Hi, ICS Lima students. I miss you, and I just thought it might be fun to have story time with Mrs. C. And so today I'm going to read a story to you called The Boo Boos That Changed the World, a true story about an accidental invention. Really. This is by Barry Wittenstein and illustrated by Chris Hasu. So have you ever cut your finger or gotten a scratch and you needed a Band-Aid? Have you ever wondered where those Band-Aids came from? Well, today, this story is a true story that's going to tell us about how Band-Aids were invented. I'm doing this on Epic because, as you know, I can't get to the library and get books. So I wanted to show you some fun things about Epic. One thing you can do is if you find a word on the page that you don't understand, you can actually click on it, up the word for you and give you the definition. So this word accidental means happening unexpectedly or by chance. So something that happens unexpectedly. So accidental. So that's a great tool that Epic has for you. So let's start the story. The Boo Boos That Changed the World. Once upon a time in 1917, actually, a cotton buyer named Earl Dixon married his beloved Josephine, and they lived happily ever after. The end. I thought this was just the beginning of the book. Is it the end? Let's turn the page and find out. Actually, that was just the beginning. The newlyweds expected to live in a quiet life in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Instead, Earl and Josephine ended up changing the world, one boo-boo at a time. You see, Josephine was accident prone. She often bumped and bruised herself while working around the house, but that was nothing compared to how often she injured herself in the kitchen. I want you to think of three things here. 1. Who are the main characters of our story? Think about it, or your brother or sister's watching, or your mom and dad are watching with you. Tell them who the main characters are of the story. Did you say Earl and Josephine? That's a great job. All right, number 2. When does this story take place? Think about it, or tell the person that you're with watching. Do you remember on the first page it said it happened in 1917? That was a very long time ago, wasn't it? Almost, it's more than 100 years. All right, number 3. What is the setting of the story? Where is the story taking place? Did you say Brunswick, New Jersey? You were exactly right. This is in New Jersey, and New Jersey is in the United States of America. So let's find out what happens. Ouch, when she sliced and diced an onion. She sometimes sliced her finger too. Boo-hoo, when she grated cheese. She sometimes grated her knuckle. Ah, when she lifted a hot pot off the stove, she sometimes burned her hand. After Josephine winced in pain, she quickly grabbed a rag to stop the bleeding. But with bulky towels between her fingers, it was even harder for Josephine to hold a knife. She became even more accident-prone. Impossible, you say? It's true. Josephine's klutziness had become a bloody problem. Every night when Earl came home from work, he looked forward to talking with Josephine and eating the wonderful meal she had prepared. That was until he saw his beloved's hands. Yikes! Her cuts might get infected. He had to help his new bride. Let's look at that word infected. Infected. Whoops. Infected means to contaminate with the disease producing a substance or germs. So it's to help germs not get in the cut. So if germs get in the cut, it can get infected. That means it can get worse than it already is. Earl's father was a doctor, so Earl knew a little bit about boo-boos and bandages, and luckily he worked for a company that manufactured hospital supplies. Earl knew there had to be a solution. But what was it? Earl thought while he shaved in the morning, Earl thought while he bought cotton in the afternoon, then I could. And Earl thought some more while he lay in bed at night. And that would solve. Finally, a light bulb went off over his head. I've got it, Earl yelled with excitement, waking up Josephine. What have you got? She asked. The bloody solution, of course, Earl replied. Do you see the light bulb over his head? Does that happen to you when you get a great idea? Does a light bulb go off? That'd be pretty cool if it did, but that's how you know in a book that somebody has a great idea. The next morning, Earl tried out his idea. Step 1, he took a long piece of adhesive tape and laid it on the kitchen table, sticky side up. Step 2, Earl cut small squares of sterile gauze and stuck them on the tape every few inches. And step 3, he placed a material called crinoline on top of the adhesive tape to keep the whole strip sterile. That word sterile, let's see what it means. Sterile, we saw it twice here. Sterile, not able to produce something. It's also, number 3 is the one that makes the most sense in this one, is it's free from microscopic living things and especially germs. So it doesn't have germs on it that could get into the cut. Just like we said, it could get infected. And so this bandage with this gauze over it would help keep it from getting germs in. It would be sterile. It would be clean. It would be fresh from germs. No germs. It's perfect, Earl said proudly. Now all Josephine had to do was cut off a piece of the longer strip and put it on. She didn't need anybody's help. She needed only one hand. It worked. At last, they lived happily ever after. The end. Uh-oh, do you think this is the end? Let's turn the page and find out. But wait, here comes the part about how Earl and Josephine changed the whole world. Earl guessed there were probably hundreds, possibly even thousands of people who could benefit from his new invention. Earl and Josephine thought about making the bandages themselves, but they soon realized it was too big a job. Earl told one of his co-workers about it, and the co-worker encouraged Earl to meet with the company's president. At first, Earl's boss, James Johnson, wasn't quite sure Earl's idea was good enough. Earl demonstrated how easy it was to put the bandage on. Then Mr. Johnson saw his own light bulb. The company agreed to produce and sell the product. They combined the words bandage and first aid to create the clever name Band-Aid. Have you ever used a Band-Aid before? Have you ever cut yourself and you've had to have a Band-Aid? I know I have. I'm sure your parents have. Band-Aids are all over the world. Now, Earl and Josephine would surely live happily ever after because Band-Aids were guaranteed to be an instant success. And with that, we have come to the end. Thank you and good night. Do you think that's the end of the story? Let's turn the page and find out. Oops, not yet. Sorry. The first year Band-Aids were made in a factory, it was slower than slow process, and only a small number could be manufactured by hand. They came rolled up and were 18 ridiculous inches long and 3 ridiculous inches wide, and they still had to be cut into pieces. Earl, Josephine, and Mr. Johnson had high expectations, but the Band-Aid boxes collected dust, ignored, and unwanted. What is this word expectations? Let's look and see. The act or state of expecting. You're looking forward to, or you're waiting for something to happen. So if they had high expectations, they were waiting for something good to happen. They knew that it was going to do something good. But so far, has it turned out to be something good? Not yet, but let's find out and see. A few years later, the company invented a machine that could mass produce thousands of the bandages. Instead of the user having to cut them up, each one was ready to go. Band-Aids were now about 3 inches long and an inch wide, and they were cut too. Each one had a little red string to pull in order to open the paper wrapper. Success! Band-Aids flew off the shelves. The end. Do you think this is really the end? Let's turn the page and find out. Not really. Unfortunately, even with the cute red string and the convenient size, the public wasn't sold on the idea. Mr. Johnson knew there had to be a solution. What happened next was truly a stroke of genius. What is the word genius? Let's look at it and find out. Whoops, turn the page. Genius. A genius is a person with a rare and remarkable level of intelligence or talent. Someone that's very clever and smart. A smart person is a genius. Are you a genius? Sometimes I have good ideas. Sometimes I feel like I'm a genius. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm a genius. What about you? The company decided to give the Band-Aids away. Mr. Johnson wondered who needed self-adhesive Band-Aids the most. And then the light bulb went off again. Remember what that light bulb means? He had a great idea. The Boy Scouts, of course, all those fall down, climb up, scratched elbows, scratched knees boys got plenty of cuts. It didn't take long before the mothers of those rough and tumble boys saw how handy the little bandages were. Can you find any bandages on, or any Band-Aids on the Boy Scouts? Point to them if you see them. Good job. That did it. Earl and Josephine's invention was a smash. A smash means it was a hit. That means it was a great thing that happened, that good things started happening with it. During World War II, the company sent 1 million of free Band-Aids to the brave soldiers fighting overseas. 1 million. That's a lot of Band-Aids. In the years that followed, Band-Aids were made in different sizes, colors, and designs. Some even had pictures of cartoon characters on them, and that continues to this day all over the world. Look at the soldiers. Can you find any Band-Aids on the soldiers? See if you can find 2 Band-Aids on the soldiers. Yeah, great job. So these Band-Aids were sent to the soldiers, and all of these, and they just became popular all over the world. But have you ever had some of the Band-Aids that either are different sizes or different colors, or they even have like cartoon characters on them? I remember when my son Joseph was little, his favorite cartoon character was Spider-Man. And so we had Spider-Man Band-Aids. Did you ever have anything like that? From boisterous hot dog vendors in Brooklyn, fancy French winemakers, tired taxi drivers in Denmark, and English bobbies on bicycles, to daredevil skateboarders in Saskatchewan, king crab fishermen in Alaska, sweaty Ugandan soccer players, and applauding audiences at the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow. The sounds of ah, wah, and ouch echo still, but not for long. I love this picture. Look at the picture of the world and look all around the world at the different languages that say ouch. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? Can you find, if you are not from, or if your main language isn't English, can you find your language? That's awesome. Because soon those sneevels and sobs of pain are silenced by Earl and Josephine's accidental boo-boo invention. And that is the happiest ending of all. The end, really. So now you know the true story of how the Band-Aids were invented. It was by accident. Do you think that if Earl's wife, Josephine, hadn't been accident prone and hurt herself so much that he would have ever invented the Band-Aid? It's pretty interesting how God puts things in our life that cause us to do things that he's planned in advance for us, or he's purposed for our life. We can trust him when we begin to see things that maybe he's giving us these great ideas, that he will use those ideas for us to maybe invent something that is used all over the world. So when you have a dream or an idea, remember, it might be just the thing that God wants you to do to help the world. One thing I like about this story is if we turn the page, it has an author's note, which is always fun to read. And at the bottom of the author's note, it says that the Band-Aid celebrates its 100th anniversary in the year of 2020. In the year of 2020, that's this year. So that means this year the Band-Aid is 100 years old. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? Let's turn the page here because I like the very last page of this book. Do you know how Mrs. C talks about how when we read books, we begin to learn things, and when we learn things, we can start looking and searching to when we have that wonder about things. So you read something, you read about these Band-Aids and you're like, oh, well, I wonder how this happened, or I wonder if this happened. It makes us have these wonders. Well, in the back of this one, it says one of the best ways to get more information is to type search terms into your favorite search engine. So just like we've talked about before, the KidRex, KIDREX, is the best search engine for kids. And you know that that's a place where you can go and it's safe for you to search for things. So you can maybe search something like history of Band-Aids. You could do something like the biography of Earl Dixon. You also can go on YouTube and you can look for Band-Aid commercials. You can find Band-Aid commercials from all different times and see the way that Band-Aids have changed over the years. And also I like this because in the back here, it also shows that there's other things that you can go to on the internet to look at other things about Band-Aids. So if you are interested, remember, you can get a free Epic subscription right now. And I send it to your parents' email, and you can start looking at these books too. Maybe you would like to go back and read this book to your parents, or maybe you would like to read it to your sibling. So you can go on and get your own book. I mean, you can go get on Epic and read this book for yourself, and you can even learn more. I have enjoyed getting to read to you today. I hope that you enjoyed this book, and I am praying for you and your family as you wait out at your home. And we miss you, and we can't wait to see you again at school soon. I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.